Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Centric, this being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Sinner. So quite a few things went down this episode that we have to talk about. So first and foremost, we finally learn more about Mosswood, because for one, Harry ended up, he followed Glenn to this lady. Like, when he noticed the, marks on her feet, I didn't really think much of it. I was like, oh, like that must be his thinking, like the burn lady. It didn't click in my head to think like, oh, like, right, like Carmen had feet like that. That's why he took so much notice in him, because I guess that's part of Glenn's thing, because we learned a little bit more about the therapy and stuff like that. Obviously, we kind of already elaborated on it before, but the whole like, oh yeah, like they act out their trauma or whatever onto other people. And I guess that's Glenn's thing, because the lady had said like, no, Glenn's thing wasn't even sex. So it seems like it was that, just what, I don't know, like whatever they're going through because of this whole like therapy or the sessions or the work they go through with Lionel kind of got it set off so that maybe it's at the top of their heads, and so that's their way of dealing with whatever happened to them. Or maybe those are just lame excuses to do what they want to do to people. Maybe that's how he gets his rocks off anyway. Doesn't necessarily need a sexual release, just does that just because that's a sick, twisted way of getting off, I'm assuming. Because especially a lot of stuff that pops up later on, the whole thing with like the way Lionel handles things, because even Vera's like, yeah, we didn't used to do this. It used to be more imaginative, and now it's a lot more physical. Like, people are acting out these violent things. And it seems it's not until now that I really notice, it's like, yeah, it's against women too, most of the time. Like, maybe the original situation when Glenn, when he was beating up someone, was a guy, but in the other cases, it's just like, it seems like Lionel keeps setting it up to be like ladies that are in those like very effed up situations. So that's what I'm kind of thinking, like this whole thing is some like roundabout means of like getting her jollies off. Because it's like, what did he do? He brought in a whole bunch of dudes, and then he was just kind of like, oh yeah, like Marin, she didn't accept the work or whatever. She kind of, because she ran away from the whole situation. But it's like, when you looked in that barn, wasn't there like one other lady? I think it was Bess. But like, it was a whole bunch of dudes that he walking in there. So it's just, he's trying to pretend like it's work, but really it's just some twisted sex code is what the whole thing seems like it's all about. And I think it's such a thing because it's like, Harry kind of calls her out for it in present day, but he knows that Vera's done so much that she's ashamed of, because because he ended up finding Carmen's, deposition, and I guess hearing it like really messed with Vera, because it made her kind of confront a lot of the stuff that's happened, a lot of stuff that she's trying to bury, which is so interesting because Mosswood's all about bringing stuff to the surface, and supposedly, and now it's like you're trying so hard to bury stuff in the past. So I'm curious, like, I think it is more so like she never knew that, like, because I'm sure what Carmen went through is not a small thing. Like, probably Vera herself went through it definitely went through it. Everyone went through it. And I think ultimately that's why it hurts Vera the most, why she'd rather forget, because she blames herself. Because Bess got hurt during one of the sessions. She was like, oh no, it wasn't Vic's fault. It's just like I was stood in the wrong place and blah, blah, blah. She's got this huge gash on her leg, and she's just kind of like, no, I gotta thank you. Like, this is about the work, and I was helping him, because even Lionel tries to spin it. It's like, no, she'll heal, and along the way, Vic is healing too. So that's how it all works. But it's like he's making up lame excuses. Like, Vera felt bad because she convinced Bess that no matter what happens, if it's part of the session, it's part of the work, it's all good, it's all healing and stuff like that. But now with everything that's going on, she's starting to have second guesses. She's taking care of Julian because things with Marin are a little complicated. Like, her body isn't producing, but Vera's the one that's lactating, and Vera's kind of being the one that's breastfeeding him. And Marin, I think, is reluctant to touch Julian just because it's like, because for her main reason for having Julian too was because she wanted to prove, like, she has her issues with her mom, and maybe on some level that came through in this regard as well, because it's like her mom had a hard time accepting her, so she's having a hard time accepting Julian, especially knowing who the baby daddy is and everything, and being Lionel. So I think that adds an element to it, just kind of like the craziness behind it. But it also stems from the fact that she just doesn't believe she's a good enough mom. Like, it's like, my body's not good, and she just kind of doesn't want to really touch him, because I guess she feels like I said, more than anything, I guess she just doesn't feel like she deserves to be a mom, because I guess she feels like the way Vera's taking care of him is like better than what she could do. But Vera was trying to tell her, like, no, like, look, touch him, you haven't held him all day. Then Lionel did the whole thing where he tries to take Julian away, and he's getting on Vera because she canceled the work. And that was kind of interesting because the moment Glenn's like, oh, who the hell do you think you are, getting all up in her face because she's canceling the work, she's like, that's what Lionel said, it was, the Beacon said, which that wasn't what he said, but she, like I said, and she's of explaining it later on, Julian opened her eyes, stuff that she let go because she believed in all of this, but seeing Julian's face like opened her eyes for the first time, and so she changed everything. She tells Harry that the Beacon left, but the moment I was like, you're gonna poison him, aren't you? The moment she handed him the tea and everything, I was like, so that's where that came from. It kind of came full circle, in a sense. We still don't 100% understand what's going on with the Bess and Adam thing, especially because Vera wants to pretend like everything's good. I mean, to be fair, I think the reason why the Bess and Vera thing is, and it's something I brought up last episode, I believe the hooded figure is his mom. I think that's Marin. I think she's been, because we don't know where she is. Like later on, there's that body that comes up out of the water. This is a random crazy theory. I think that's Heather's mom. I don't think that's Marin. I think that's Heather's mom. Because her dad is weird, especially when she brings up the conversation of her mom. Like, this is kind of a weird stretch, but follow me on this. If you're familiar with the show Longmire, this is kind of spoilerish, but like, Walt lied to Katie for such a long time behind the circumstances of her mom dying. He made it seem like she died because she was sick. It's like, no, she was murdered. So I'm thinking like Jack was one of those people that was kind of mixed up in this whole Mosswood thing, and he's kind of covering up what really happened to her. That kind of might also be the reason why he doesn't want to talk about it. Or to be fair, that could be some other lady entirely for all we know. But I know it's not Marin. The person under that hood that Julian kept seeing, that's definitely his mom. She's just trying to keep herself hidden away. Like, either it's like she's legitimately keeping her face covered so no one wouldn't really know it's her. You know, maybe something happened, her face is a little disfigured or something. Or it's because, you know, maybe because in Julian's mind, he's manifesting her, like, he perceives her like that, even though that's not what she really looks like. I'm thinking the cult thing is real. At least that's how I'm feeling about it. But, like, I've been thinking that since last episode, that's got to be Marin, that I'm still thinking it now. So it kind of makes me cement it in my head even more, because I'm jumping around here. But she took him at the end of the episode. It's like the only person who would have motive to take him at this point in time would be her. It's interesting to me because, like, there was a line from Lionel. He was kind of like, oh, like, when he was like, oh, Julian will stay with me, who was basically saying it was going to be a short-lived thing. Part of me was when he was like, you don't think he was planning on sacrificing Julian? A lot of the stuff he was saying in this episode kind of made me think, because he made that reference to Vera earlier too, about, like, I don't know Bible stuff, but it was like, wasn't like someone had to sacrifice their son Isaac or something like that. It was all about sacrificing a son, and in that moment, I think that's where it clicked in Vera's head, like, especially when he took Julian later on. It's like, oh, he's about to do something like that. So I'm pretty sure she killed him. I was wondering, because I was thinking, like, maybe he got poisoned from the tea, but it's like, no, the tea seems like it acts pretty fast, because it hit Adam and Bess pretty fast. But then again, maybe that's not the case. Maybe that's even more reason why Vera kind of feels more responsible for this situation, because it's like, oh yeah, because, like, it's kind of come full circle, because, you know, if in fact she killed Lionel like that, which I truly believe she did, it's just kind of interesting that Julian would kind of end up doing that himself. Because there's a lot to this situation, because it turns out, like, Harry ends up finding out that the DA, that dude who's been pushing this whole situation, he got funding from, like, Glenn as well as Dr. Poole, which we know have a huge connection to this whole, like, Mosswood thing, as well as other people pay big contributions. So it's like, that's the reason why the Carmen's, her whole case kind of got buried, was because of him. So they gave him money, and he gave them a little political help by, like, shutting down cases and stuff like that, like Carmen's. It's interesting because when I was bringing it up earlier, when Glenn was making those arguments to Vera, he was kind of like, I gave him this land. It's like, you gave him that land that's been in your family so that you would have, it was payment so you can come to Mosswood and do whatever you want to. And Vera had, like I said, had said that it had changed, but, like, to what extent had it changed? And it's like, oh, so many people follow you. It's like, oh, yeah, because people, even other people, were recognizing, like, how messed up things were. I mean, it seems like it's more potentially evenly split, because it seems like there's a lot of guys and girls. I feel like it just seemed like on a lot of those occasions, those sessions, it looks like a lot. I guess I never really noticed until this episode just how off the balance is. it just seemed like there was like I said, with that what happened in that barn, like with Marin. Like I said, I think it was her and Bess and a whole bunch of dudes. So that's why I was like, yeah, that's got that creepy sex cult vibe to it, And they're masquerading it as some like sessions and stuff like that. So it's also interesting because the DA had someone following Harry start digging up in his life the fire in his family situation, as well as like the whole Cora Tenetti situation. They were looking into that too, trying to dig up whatever they could about him. So, but luckily Harry had his dirt on the DA, so it was enough to get him to drop the charges. But that's the thing, and it's something Vera kind of hints at. It's like, you don't know how far this go up. At the very least, we know the DA's involved, but who else might be involved? Like I said, I'm getting an inkling like it was Jack. Like whatever this whole situation, maybe he's the one that actually helped Marin get away from all this. Like I said, we still don't know where she is. Like I said, I'm sure that's not her body. I bet it's not. If it is, I'll be shocked, but I'm pretty sure the person in the code is. But maybe Jack gave her a new life and gave her an opportunity to run away, and that's why. Because her dad's kind of acting like an asshole. She even calls him out this episode because he's like, "Oh, move on, move on." It's like, why are you being so shady about this? It's like you won't even talk about mom. So, like I said, either like, cause it didn't seem like there was anyone in the driver's seat. So that's why I felt like because I thought that whole thing might have been like, okay, like if Vera gave him a small enough dose, maybe that could have been Lionel driving away with Marin. He ended up crashing or whatever. Like I don't know what I'm thinking. But I think that's Heather's mom, the reason why he won't talk about it. Or it could be someone else, and that situation is what's making Jack not want to talk about Heather's mom, I'm guessing. We also learned this episode that it was, in fact, Harry that started the fire. Not too shocking. They kind of heavily hinted at that. But it's just because for him, it's like his mom was sick and sometimes she was quiet, but the moment she wasn't. And for him, it's like the guilt will eat you away because Julian's like, I'm guilty. I know I am. He also, because like, and I thought it like, I guess it's one of those things where it's kind of like, because he's such a young kid, no one wanted to explain the concept of death to him. So that's why he believed, like, if you died, you just come back. Like, he didn't really understand all that. And Harry's blunt with him, like, honestly, no one knows what goes down. If someone tells you they know, they're lying, Because he's just following what his mom had kind of taught him forever. And he's believing Harry because it's like Harry never lied to him, but it's like his mom lies to him all the time. She says, like, the fact of the matter is you're coming home, but for him, it's like, what is home, It is kind of sad because you see, no matter how twisted things are, you do see that Vera does deeply love him and care for him as if he was her own. And so, things are probably going to turn upside down very soon for Vera and everything Mosswood related. So it seems like they're not as bad. Maybe it has something to do with that barn, that rock in particular. Maybe like there's some hidden bones, some bodies in there. Like, for example, maybe, that's where Lionel is, being the beacon and all. Maybe that's where his body has been stuffed or something, hence why his body's not there or can't be found anywhere. I don't know. We only saw that car in the lake, so it could be someone else's body. Who knows? Like I said, it was just like a weird theory I had about it being like Heather's mom, or there being more to why he won't talk about it. Maybe it's just because, like, he's constantly throughout the episode trying to get her to change her mind. He's like, oh, I'm joking. She's like, yeah, sometimes there's just things that aren't funny. Like, because she's getting super pissed at him. Just the way he's acting, kind of like, it seems like a self-defense mechanism as someone who kind of does it a lot himself, where it's just kind of when things kind of get a little serious, you kind of get a little jokey and stuff just because you don't really know how to handle it. You don't want things to be too serious, but it's like, it seems like the entire seasons, he's been so quick to be like, nope, change the subject, change the subject, change the subject, so. I don't know. We'll see what happens kind of going forward with all of that. Like I said, I just know Vera's lying when she says that the beacon just left him all of a sudden. It's like, no, you know what happened, and everybody knows what happened. Maybe, I don't know. Like I said, we'll decide. I have to wait and see on that front. We did see Harry and Heather kind of make up, because like she talks about the fact that she apologizes because she didn't realize just how much important her job was. It's kind of everything to her, and she kind of got a little scared. I even love Brick being like, cause it was like, oh, Harry did a great job like figuring this whole thing out, and then Brick was like, I traced a call for him. It's like, yeah, you did, Brick. It's like you trying to get your little bit of glory. It's like, hey, I helped out too. It's like, yeah, but I guess you're going to skip over the fact how super hesitant you were to help in that regard because you don't want to get in trouble about it. But nevertheless. I mean, we still have 2 episodes, so there's still quite a bit to this that's left to unfold. Because in everyone's mind, it's just going to be like, oh yeah, Julian ran away. That's what it's all going to be. I mean, because he's in that position where, because his case has been dropped down to family court, the charges have been like lessened to a certain degree. So, also really quickly, I just remembered I wanted to add this in there, kind of about the whole Marin thing. The moment she started hemorrhaging, that's why I was like, oh, that's what happened. So that's what this whole thing is. You were covering up the fact that she actually died there because you didn't want anyone snooping around. So I thought that's what it was, and then she turned out to be okay. I was like, oh wow, okay, never mind. Quickly shut down. I was like, oh man, I thought she died there after giving birth, so it's kind of nobody's fault. But it's like, no, last time we see, she is definitely okay. So, which is interesting. I know just because I went out of order, but I felt like I also should include that thought process I had immediately. So, like I said, it turned out immediately not to be right, but I figured I'd just go ahead and kind of mention it anyway. But like I said, there's a lot we have to, wait and see how everything unfolds. I'm very interested to see what happens in the next episode. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.